for it to kick in here. Good morning, guys. Welcome to the stream. Pope J-Rod, yes, we will definitely be talking about that today. Battle line definitely is more important. We'll kind of go over it when we get to those. We're gonna. My thought was, I've got all the mission stuff right here, the cards. Kind of go through stuff one by one. Talk about our thoughts on it. Some of it's new, some of it's not. I think. I think that battle line, just as a before we kind of start talking about those individual missions. And Bob, you tell me what you think. I think battle line certainly is more useful, but I don't think that it's like 100% crucial. Like if you have a list that you really like that doesn't have any battle line and you're doing well with it, it's not a massive detriment. You're not gonna probably lose games because you don't have it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I do like the mission rules that have battle line. I think that that's really really cool. But there's how many of them? One,
Five.
two, three, four, five, six. I think there's six to 10. So some of them are better than others, and we'll kind of cover that too. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Bob?
I don't think they're going to be as big an impact as we kind of talked about in general. Um, but they're going to help you if you have it, if you can plan for it in your list without um, causing any detriments or big changes to what has been working for you. Um, but yeah, we'll go in detail over them. But I think it's a hit or miss. You don't have to build for it. It helps if you have it. Um, I personally am just going to add a battle line unit into my list just because I think it'll be nice. I've needed it in my list anyway. Um, that's kind of how I'm going to be swinging. But um, a unit of intercessors can't hurt.
Yeah, so I'm excited for the battle line stuff simply because most of my lists already run two Primaris Crusader squads. So I've already got two units of battle line in my lists. I've thought about adding like a small intercessor squad or assault intercessor squad as a third one, just to have an extra one in there. So it's basically like free benefits for me because I'm already taking battle line. So yeah. So let's get in it. We'll kind of go through the mission cards here, and talk about them as we go, and then just kind of talk about what the future of Black Templar looks like. So the deployments are, I think half of them are the same. No, there's six. I think four of them are the same. Hammer and Anvil. That's the one that's the long short table edge bit. Something to note with these is they are now measuring. Oh, it's not registering. There we go. They are now measuring from the board edge, not from the center of the table, which is fantastic because measuring from the center of the table is always a pain in the butt. So much easier to measure from the board edge. The other thing about that, I guess it only screws you up if you're still one of those weird people playing on 4x6. But it doesn't 4 by the table size now is no longer the minimum required. It just says that's the table size. I know it used to say, like, when they first transitioned over, they're like, no, you can still use your 4x6. This is just the minimum. And everyone's like, 4x6 is out. It's gone. We're just going with this. And,
Buy
now
new tables.
buy new tables. Hack the corners off of your table. No. So now it just straight up says that this is the table size. So hammer and anvil, that's the same. Search and destroy, that's the one with the center circle corner deploy. Crucible of battle is the only one that is diagonal deployments that's left alive. The others were culled. Dawn of War, that's the old school 40k. This kids, back in my day, this used to be the only deployment type we had. We had to go to our Warhammer games uphill in the snow both ways. No, I'm just kidding. That's the classic.
Diablo right there.
Yeah, I know, right? It's a little Deckard came, stay a while and listen. So, and then we had the two new ones. This looks way more complicated than it is. If you look at all these little lines and everything, sweeping engagement replaces the one that was kind of like mid-table to diagonal along the long table edge. But it's really not as complicated as all this. Like, look at all those. You can probably barely see them, but let's see if I can get it to focus on that. You know, you can see all those little lines. Really, it's just two measurements. Like the other measurements are the objectives. It's just two measurements. The bigger half is 14 inches. The shorter half is 8 inches, and it's half the board. So it's actually really simple. So yeah, I kind of like these. Now that I've looked at them some, I kind of like these. And then the other one is Dawn of War, but that style. Same thing, 20 inches on one, 12 inches on the other. Interesting deployment types. What do you think of the new deployment types there, Bob?
I think it's a good thing to have change up. You're not changing the whole deck. I think it's 3 of 6.
Something
But
like
you're
that,
gonna
yeah.
get a little bit of change. Keep it fresh. I do like the new measurements though, because let's be honest, and until you got some experience with the deployment zones and knowing where everything need to be measured out of, it was a huge pain.
So much
especially for new
easier.
players.
So much easier just board edge. Measure from board edge. I don't know why it was never that way to begin with. Something else to note. There is and we'll talk about the changes in it too, but there is a tournament companion PDF on warhammercommunity.com for Pariah Nexus. Now, there was one for Leviathan too, and it had like terrain layout suggestions. It had mission suggestions for tournaments. It was very good. This one's even better because this little rules packet that only came with the cards that like no one had access to if you didn't have the cards or find a screenshot online or something, they put the whole thing in the Pariah Nexus document. So now you have an actual free PDF with the rules for because they have changed, a significant change, and we'll get more into this a little bit later, is reserve restrictions. Reserves units cannot arrive on the battlefield during the first battle round, excluding units placed into strategic reserves during the battle. That's a significant change from last mission pack, which did not allow, unless you had a thing that said on your next movement phase, you couldn't pull turn 1 and come in turn 1. So now if you go second and you have scouts, you can pull those scouts and put them in reserves and have them come back in your turn 1. Really nice change. I like that a lot. Very simple and clear and concise, so there's no more arguing about like, oh, well, this has deep strike, so I think it should be able to know that's not how it worked. Blah, 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 whatever. So yeah. So that's a bit about that. So let's anything you want to add, Bob, before we start talking about the mission rules?
No, we do have a video that's coming out here shortly, so we'll be kind of talking about the big changes coming to us as far as that goes.
Tomorrow. Look for that sometime tomorrow.
We're going to be just kind of going over the Pariah Nexus rules today, and then just anything that you guys have for us. So,
yeah. Well, and
anything, just shoot them our way.
As the title says, the future of Black Templars. What does the future hold for us? Anyway, The mission rules, some of these I think are the same. There's no more Chilling Reign, so that's gone. There will be a mission rule for every single game. The first one in the list here is Adapt or Die, and basically, if you're using fixed missions once per battle, or if you're using tactical, it's twice per battle. After you draw your secondary mission card, you can draw another secondary mission card and then shuffle one of those two back into the deck. So basically, you can swap a secondary. If you're playing fixed, you can just do it once per game, which actually is kind of nice for fixed. Uh, if you're doing it because you're like, I think I can do this, and then partway through the battle you're like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So you could switch it up for something else. But for secondary, it's basically new orders for free twice per game, which is pretty sweet. So um, so yeah, I like this mission rule a lot, especially if you're playing tactical, because it allows you to, uh, you know, have less RNG, right? That screws you over, right? You're like, draw two terrible cards. You're like, ah, I don't want to spend my only CP right now to draw a new card, or maybe I don't have any CP. Um, Let me use this. So I like that one a lot. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good mission to be able. One of the missions allowing you to make some changes in the middle of the board to fix your bad decision, or potentially get you another one that's going to be high scoring, if whatever the case may be. Um, like you mentioned, there could have been a situation that came up and you're just not able to get to it. It's a great way of doing it without having to spend that CP. I do like the fact that GW has made it so that you can adapt to the battle a lot easier,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be to use the CP, which is now not a single time per game. Yeah, I think that's really,
Yes,
really
new
nice
orders are no longer
change.
once per game, which is also nice. Tim says, I don't think the changes are significant enough that you need to revise your whole list. I run 3 PCS anyway, so that's enough battle line units. Yeah, agreed. They're nice changes, but it's not like, oh my god, I gotta spam battle line now. So, of note, this mission rule, Adapt or Die, is not on the Pariah Nexus tournament mission pool list, which we know tournaments are only going to use this list for the most part. I do not see it on here, not even once. So, which is kind of interesting. I'm surprised by that because I like that. So, next up is hidden supplies. When drawn, if you also drew the ritual primary mission card, discard this mission rule and draw a new mission card rule. Basically, you're going to place an extra objective marker. They've modified this in the tournament companion, and it says before setting up this new objective marker, must first move the objective marker in the center of the battlefield. If no man's land touches any corners of the battlefield, you must move the objective marker towards one of those corners. They've added, otherwise, the players roll off and the winner selects which corner the objective marker is moved to. And then you place a new one 6 inches from the center, diagonally towards the opposite corner for that. This is more or less unchanged. I believe this was in the last one. Um, I never. It's okay. It's just an extra objective to fight over. It's nothing really special.
Yeah, it's a basic
Yeah.
objective based one.
This one appears two, looks like two times in the list. Um, since we're talking about that, real quick, we'll jump back to uh, the deployments and how often they appear in the tournament list. So tipping point, that's this one, appears 4 times. Hammer and anvil, that's the short edge one, also appears 4 times. Search and destroy, that's the corners with the circle in the center, appears 4 times. Crucible of battle is the only diagonal one. It is also 4 times. and then Dawn of War and Sweeping Engagement are both twice. So, kind of interesting how they broke those up. So, so yeah. Anyway, back to the missions. The next one is Fog of War. In the first battle round, units have the benefit of cover, and players cannot use core stratagems, excluding new orders. So, this one is really quite interesting. We've not really had this. It actually only appears once in the mission pool list. But I like this one as well. It's sort of like the old night fight. If you old veterans remember that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is night fight.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it only shows up once. So, you have to play that where it is. But
and again, this we're talking about the tournament pack. Like if you guys aren't playing tournaments, and you're just playing home games, like, you know, don't worry about how often it appears in there, because while like the idea is that you can draw mission randomly, there's nothing in that says that you can't also just create your own. Like, oh, let's do this one because it's cool. So. And my friend group often do that too. We'll be like, oh, I've played that one a lot. Let's just pick one instead. Okay.
So I think that this is going to be important for the cover, less important for the orders, the core stratagems, because not probably using too many of them the first turn, because in my experience the first turn is going to be a setup turn. You're not doing a ton of things. Maybe something is overhanging out of some in line of sight that you can get some shots on, hopefully do some damage. That's really where it's going to impact it. It's going to be more of a defensive mission rule to allow you to be a little bit more okay about sticking things out from behind cover if necessary. I don't think it's going to be a massive upgrade, but getting an extra pip of 8 cover save is going to be potentially a big deal. But I'm not using stratagems in the first turn.
Probably not. Not core strats anyway. So, the next one is Inspired Leadership. This one's a bit bland in my opinion. While a player's warlord is not within their deployment zone, each time you take a battle shock test and the warlord is within 9 and visible to that unit, add 1 to that test. So, that one's, like I said, that feels more like Chilling Reign than anything else. It's just like this inconsequential bonus most of the time that, like, who cares? So, at least they're trying to do something with Warlord, but I don't really care for how that worked there. So, what are your thoughts?
I almost would have rathered it be something that impacted battle shock tests, not to the positive, because battle shock tests are rarely failed as it is. Which should have been is something to like, okay, if your warlord's out the deployment zone, then they get their normal battle shock leadership. If they are not, then you have a -1. So then it makes it more impactful.
Impactful your opponent's battle shock versus your own. Yeah, I agree. Prepared positions. So this is the first of the battle line ones. I actually like this one a lot. If you have Crusaders in your squad, this is really good. Players can target their battle line units with go to ground and heroic intervention stratagems for 0 CP, but cannot do so if they've already used that stratagem on a different unit that turn. That's really powerful on Primaris Crusaders. That one I like a lot. Prepared positions is 1, 2, looks like twice in the list. They gave a good scattering. Like there's not one that's like overwhelmingly like the majority here. But yeah, I really like that one because it benefits Primaris Crusader squads a lot.
Yeah, I think anything that has a big big butt on it, like Crusaders, is going to benefit a lot.
Hmm.
Now, the downside is this is going to hurt us against like guard, orcs,
Yeah.
a lot of different things that have and really revolve their whole lists around battle line. Where we have a couple units that are applicable. There's other lists that really, 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 lean into their battle line, and this is
Yeah.
going to hurt us uh, when we have to face this. So it's just something that you have to be prepared for. I like it. It is very nice, but you definitely have to think about that heroic intervention, especially because that could break a game.
Yeah. Um, yeah, DJ Vincon asks is with the importance of battle line is Grim with 20 blob PCS back. So to be honest, it never really left. It's always been something that's viable. Um, it kind of depends on um, what your goal is, right? Are you trying to go to Nova and like be in the top bracket? You probably don't want to run that then, right? But if you're just playing locally, RTTs, maybe a local GT or something like that, a smaller GT, yeah, it's totally viable. It's always been viable. I mean, yeah, Grim went up a little bit in points, but um, it's I think it's something that's always been viable. But as someone who was it where Kirk says you need to build your list around it, right? So that's you can't, it's not something you're just like, oh, let me just throw this 400 point unit in here. Like, you have to have a plan. So,
Yeah.
um, welcome Tools and Toy. Just started BT. Welcome to the Crusade. Yes, we are live. We do this once a month. We have a live stream. Usually it's the third Sunday of the month, but last weekend did not work out for us, so we're doing it this weekend instead. So welcome.
You could just say the latter half of the month. It'll be sometime.
Sometime, either that third or fourth Sunday of the month, we do Caffeine and Crusade, where we talk about some sort of relevant topic, and really, it's just a way for us to interact with you guys and answer questions and that kind of stuff. So that's why we're here. The next one is the only one that you can score points off of, and that is raise banners. We saw this previewed. Basically, if you battle line unit is within an objective range, a range of an objective marker that you control, you can raise a banner on that. Note, it actually just happens. It's not an action. It just literally it says that unit raises a banner. Um, at the end of each player's turn. Now you can only raise banners once on each objective. So if you manage to raise them all on a 6 objective map, you're going to get 6 points. So for the game, but still, those couple of points could mean the difference between a win or a loss. So I like that one too. I think it's fun.
This one I like a lot because this can save your bacon. You know,
Yeah.
I like the close fought games. I like games that are very close in points. Obviously, I want to prevent points if possible, but it's indicative of my player skill and my opponent's skill for we're close in points. And this is a way for us to kind of battle it out and get a couple points here and there that that can impact the game, which I love. I love this actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. The next one's another one they previewed, Rapid Escalation. This is the one that allows up to 200 points, in a Strike Force game, which is going to be your most common. 200 points of battle line to come in from strategic reserves during the reinforcement steps of your first movement phase versus, any other time. So, fun fact, a PCS squad plus a chaplain is exactly 200 points. However, unless you know that this is going to be a mission that's used in a tournament or something like that, I probably wouldn't take a chaplain with a 10-man PCS just because it's I'd rather run them by themselves. So it's cute. It's not particularly amazing. You cannot use rapid ingress to get them in first turn because it'd be out of phase. This one is, let's see, rapid escalation. One, two. This one's also in here twice. So it's all right. Um, what do you think about it, Bob?
Yeah, we kind of talked about it on our last little stream about this one. It's okay. You know, there isn't anything game breaking that you're really going to do as far as the Black Templar side of things with this. Um, Obviously, you mentioned I wouldn't put characters with this
Yeah,
because you're going to be going above that mark. You'd have to put something really cheap, and I don't think we can
Chaplain is the
quite
only
fit
thing.
anything in.
Chaplain's the only unit.
Yeah,
I've already looked into this.
yeah, yeah. So, and
You
I
can
don't
fit a
think it's
chaplain,
worth it.
but I don't think a chaplain's worth it. I was thinking, like, I was hoping that a lieutenant would fit, but then he's just a few points too expensive. I think he's
The
5 points too
65.
much. Yeah, he's 5 points too much. That would be something worth doing because then you could, like, you're probably running an LT with Helbrecht if you're taking Helbrecht. You could just switch that LT over to them first turn for that game. But I
I would almost just rather use the scout,
yeah,
honestly, in
yeah,
your first turn and get them to where they need to be anyway.
I agree.
So instead of
Um,
getting stuck in the 6 inches on the side of the board.
so so yeah, we got Aristogato says, "Hey guys, I just got the combat patrol and a box of sword bros. Loving the hobby, and what would you look to expand the list?" Bob, what would your best suggestion be on expanding the combat patrol and a box of sword bros? That's a great start, by the way.
So my opinion, um, so the combat patrol has the
Pulsar,
impulsor, has the
intercessors,
Crusader
Crusader
squad,
squad,
and intercessor,
captain.
and a captain. So honestly, I use the Emperor's Champion on a lot of my lists. I think he is the perfect partner to your Sword Brothers, which you
Mm-hmm.
also bought. So that's really good.
Helbert.
Helbert is a good natural choice for some people. I don't run him in my list because he's just a touch too expensive for what I do. He is great though if you invest in
Can't
him.
believe you have
I use the
forsaken
Emperor's
our Lord.
Champion. Emperor's Champion is a cheap man's Helbrick though.
He is very good.
Um, I would invest in something with anti armor. So whether it be brute, if you want to put a lancer, they're kind of expensive now. But there's
Vindicator.
uh, you can do Vindicator if you want to do that. That's kind of a distraction Carnivex. But there's the uh, not the Brutalis,
Ballistus.
the Ballistus. Thank you.
Ballistus is
The
solid.
Ballistus is a solid pick
Mm-hmm.
for 140 points as it currently stands to give you some anti-infantry, or I'm sorry, anti-vehicle, anti-monster. That's where I would go because you honestly really kind of need at least something in your list in case your opponent goes heavy vehicle or heavy monster.
Yeah.
So Ballistus is where I would go, or a Lancer, something that has those high damage value pieces. Because if you don't take that, you're going to be in trouble if you go up against it,
Yeah.
especially at a smaller points level.
Yeah. And the David has joined the chat. David says Reaper all day, baby. David is a big fan of the Reapers. But the cool thing about the Gladiator is, with the exception of the sponsons, you'd have to do some fiddling with a magnet or something like that. The main turret, which is honestly what most people care about, the main turret is you don't even need to magnetize it. Literally just push the two pieces together with the gun, you're good to go. So you don't. It's very easy to make your Lancer, your Gladiator, whatever you need it to be. So yeah.
On the anti tank, you could also go with the Eradicators too if you want to go even
Mm-hmm.
cheaper. They're
Yep.
good poor man's one,
Yep.
and honestly, I've transitioned into them because they're a little bit more MSU.
Yeah. The next mission rule is smoke and mirrors. This is you can put up to 500 points, single unit, I think. We're gonna one unit. Yep. So you can place one unit after you've deployed your armies. Starting with the attacker, each player can place one unit from their army that is on the battlefield into strat reserves, regardless of how many units are already in strat reserves. Um, it can't exceed 25%. So 500 points. That's that's powerful. It allows you to kind of bait and switch, which is really really nice.
Yeah, I think this can have some very strategic implications
Yeah.
on the game because you typically will declare your reserves right at the beginning before you deploy. And then this will allow you to kind of, oh, this is what your opponent's deploying. Yeah, I really feel like I need to do another one.
Yep. Yep.
Um, or if you messed up your deployment, which is very easy to do, deployment is honestly the one place in the game where it will require you to play some games and get experience. That's not something you can teach. Um, this will help you potentially save yourself if you got caught out something out in the open, or maybe you need to put something into strategic reserves to take advantage of how your opponent deployed. This is very very powerful because you can go above that points limit on that. So
Yep. Good morning, Dave. Thanks for joining. Alex says, great name, by the way, best name there is. Hi, guys. What's MSU stand for? Multiple small units or minimum sized units. Basically, like taking 5-man units of this, 5-man units of that, maximizing the number of units versus a larger blob of units. Um, so, um, so yeah, next mission rules: stalwarts. This is another battle line one. Battle line units that perform actions are still eligible to shoot, but cannot start to perform another action. And battle line units can perform actions while within engagement range of one or more enemy units. I also really like this one because now your Crusader squad can charge somebody while performing an action and attack them. So pretty cool. Pretty cool little rule there. Stalwarts. By the way, the last one, Smoke and Mirrors, looks like it appears twice on the tournament pool list. Stalwarts actually appears 3 times. One, two, three. Yep, 3 times. So um, definitely interesting. That appears more than most of the others.
yeah, I think this is going to be one of those big ones for the battle lines where this is going to be a huge piece of the puzzle. Um, Strategically, you can bait out battle line, still do their action, and if you got the right cards, and then still utilize them. Primaris Crusader squads really like this. Um, you also really like this if you are in Gladius,
Yep.
because of the detachment rules that we have access to with that.
Yep.
So this is going to be something that you may see even buffing that detachment even more. So yeah,
Yeah.
I like this in
I like
general.
it. I like it too. Also, it's one of the few that appears 3 times on the list, so pretty good. The last one is Swift Action, another battle line one. Battle line units that advance or fall back are still eligible to perform an action that turn. Also, really good with Crusaders who can reroll advances. So, really powerful for them.
Yeah, this really works really well with our Crusader squads.
Yep. So, those are the missions, mission rules, I should say. Um, Overall, I like them all. There's not really one that I think Hidden Supplies, I think, is just kind of meh. That's my least favorite one. That and Inspired Leadership. But the rest are all really interesting and can make a difference in the game. It changes up the way the game plays. I like it.
Yeah, I kind of like the fact that even though you have to know the missions now, because if you go to a tournament, it's just chilling rain, chilling rain, chilling rain,
Chilling
right?
Reign, yeah, everything is
Or
Chilling Reign.
basically,
Yep,
and I mean, you might as well throw away half the deck. What's the point of even having the mission rules if you're not going to use any
yep,
of them? So
yep,
I like the fact that they actually took that away and allowed some of the things, but nothing is super powerful. Nothing is like game breaking. You're not going to be able to abuse it to like, oh my gosh, now this one particular list is going to just like crush all.
yeah,
So it's just subtle additional rules that can help, but not game break. And I kind of like that. And it
yeah,
forces you to use something else on the game, which is going to make it a lot more interesting, in my opinion.
yep. All right, so primary missions. Several of these are the same. Take and hold, I believe, is the same. That's just your standard control. One control for, what is it, 5 points for each one you control. The ritual is, I think it's that weird one where you're adding more objectives. I've never really played the ritual that much in previous ones. There's also a change to one of these. Which one is it? Oh, it's
Yeah,
Scorched
it's
Earth.
the rituals that you do the action and it creates
Yeah, it creates an
one, but they
objective.
can't be
Yeah.
within 12 inches of no man's
Right,
land.
right, yeah. No, within. Uh, Provided it can be set up exactly 12 inches from one other objective within no man's land and not within 6 of any others. That's interesting. So, yeah, Ritual I think is unchanged. Um, Scorched Earth, Purge the Foe, and Supply Drop are all previous ones as well. Scorched Earth has a change to it. It says each time a player versus each time the player. So yeah, that's the one where you destroy objectives. Um, I think it's largely unchanged from the previous one. Um, Supply drop is also the exact same as the one. That's the one where you have the alpha and the omega objective, and they slowly disappear over the course of the game. And then purge the foe is kill stuff. So those are the ones that are basically the previous ones. Um, I think those are all fine. The ritual is weird to me and has lots of text, so I tend to avoid that one. But otherwise, they're. David says ritual's your favorite. Why is it? Is it your favorite, David? Um, so, what are your thoughts on the existing ones they kept, Bob?
I think they're mostly objective based, which is important. Keeping to the objectives, I think, is a solid game design choice. Over the last couple of editions, they've kind of played around with, do we want to do some killing stuff or do we want to do objectives? We found out that objectives is kind of like the most balanced. So I'm glad that they kept that and kind of put everything else off to the side as secondaries. Um, and just the different interactions of the objectives. Obviously there's the different primary missions for that. There's just different ways to score the objectives. Really, they're just minor variations of the same thing. Honestly, there isn't something too terrible. The only ones that are going to be really kind of uh, different is like the terraform and scorched earth and ritual. Really, honestly, other than it's just like do an action on your objective, then you hold it. So, or stay on the objective, you hold it. There isn't really a whole lot of difference in the primary, in my opinion. That's
Yeah.
really worth talking about, honestly.
David says he likes the ritual because it's easy for opponents who focus too much on killing to lose track of how to get primary. That's why it's typically a low scoring mission. Um, he said he had one of his first PARIAH Nexus game was ritual. His impulsor was spamming objectives, and my intercessors were making them all sticky. So yeah. So then we have some new missions. This one is the Burden of Trust. Um, the second round onward, at the end of the command phase, the player whose turn it is scores 4 victory points for each objective marker they control not within your deployment zone. Then, for each objective marker that player controls, they can select one unit from their army, excluding aircraft, within range to guard it until the start of the next turn. Um, then, at the end of each player's turn, the opponent of the player whose turn it is. That's weird. So I guess when it's not your turn, you score 2 VP um, for each of your units that are within range of and guarding an objective marker, excluding battle shock. So when you have a unit that's guarding, if you have more than one unit guarding it, you can potentially score extra VP for that. That one's very weird to me, but it rewards uh, durable units, which we're pretty good at in Righteous Crusaders anyway. So could be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit interesting take on scoring some points is doing it in the opposite turn. So that'll be a little bit
It's like one of those
change.
secondaries where it's like at the end, perform this action, and it completes at the end of your opponent's turn. I think that's the idea behind it.
Yeah, but it at the same time, like you mentioned, durability is going to be important here. Shooting armies are really going to like this because they want to stay on their objectives. Sticky units are going to be obviously a problem for this. So things like Drakari, who love to sticky their objectives and move on, this is not going to be a mission that they're going to like. So this would be advantageous against one of those type of lists because what they do is they put their cabalates in their venoms or what have you and move on.
Mm-hmm.
But there are several different styles of armies that do that.
Yep.
Leagues of Votann.
Yep.
Come to mind.
Exactly.
So
the next one is Terraform. This is an action. You pick one or more of your units in your army, each within a different objective marker that's not within range, within your deployment zone, and has not been terraformed. It completes at the end of your opponent's next turn or the end of the battle, whichever comes first. If the unit is still within range and you control that objective marker, that unit is terraformed. So then from the second round onward, you get 4 for each objective marker you control, and then 2 additional for each objective marker you have terraformed during the battle. So the earlier you terraform, the better off you are. Once it's terraformed, they can't do anything about it. You just auto score those points every turn. So bizarre name, by the way. I don't know. I don't think they understand what terraform means. But either way, I like the mission. I think it rewards being aggressive early. The other hilarious thing about this is that if they table you, you continue to score those 2 points a turn for each objective. So if it's a close game and they table you, you might still win pretty easily if because you're scoring those points. So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, I like that one.
This one's kind of interesting. I will say that it sounds easier than it probably will be actually able to be implemented. So, because it has to be done outside your deployment zone, it's done in your shooting phase, and you have to get through the whole of your opponent's turn before it's terraformed. So,
but this is easy. This is easy for like a unit of infils or scouts to perform turn 1 on like some of those ones where it's like on the other side of the board kind of thing, but it's outside of your deployment zone. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of one of those. You can also use it to bait your opponent, right? Oh, I'm going to terraform this thing. Come and get me. And they're going to dedicate resources to go and try and kill that unit, and then you just swing your whole force the other direction and control half the board in that way. So you could use it to bait them as well. But you're right. I mean, you do have to survive the whole turn. So a super squishy unit just being like, "Hello, here I am," like scouts, unless they're out of line of sight and far enough away, they may not survive. So I think PCS. Tim is right. I think PCS is good for that. Scouts can be good as long as you can keep them safe, right? So, in any case, next up, unexploded ordnance. This one also has a lot of text. It is a action. The objective markers that start. So objective markers that start the battle in no man's land are hazards. So you can move hazards as an action. In your shooting phase, one or more units from your army, each within range of a different objective marker you control. It completes at the end of your turn if the unit performing this still within range, blah, blah, blah. If completed, you can move each of those hazard objectives markers up to 6 inches. When doing so, that objective marker cannot end that move on top of any other objective marker or model or inside impassable parts of terrain features. Then you score points as follows. 8 VP for each hazard objective marker that is wholly within their opponent's deployment zone. 5 VP for each other hazard objective marker that is wholly within 6 inches of their deployment zone. And then 2 VP for each other hazard objective marker that's wholly within 12. So basically, you're pushing the radioactive waste into your opponent's deployment zone is the idea behind this. I also find it funny because while you need to control the objective, like it doesn't measure, it measures from the objective itself. So you're not worried too much. Once you move it, you don't really care about it. So you just want to keep pushing them towards. That's the only reason you need to control them is to continue pushing them towards your opponent, which is really funny. I think this is very thematic and a totally different thing than we've ever seen in 40K before. I've never seen an official mission that's like get rid of the objectives.
Yeah, this one's very, very interesting as far as what you have to do with the game, and it plays the game completely different. So I'm not surprised that it only comes up once in the entire mission pack, but I like the fact that it's there, honestly. So it'll give you a completely change of pace on it's like playing football.
Yeah, yeah.
Except you
Except the
want to get
football's
rid of the ball.
radioactive. The football's
you wanna get rid of
radioactive.
it.
Yep.
So I mean, it's kind of fun. I won't lie.
I like it. Very thematic. The last primary mission is Linchpin. At the end of the command phase, we forgot to talk about how often some of these appear. Let me go back down to this. So unexploded ordnance, sadly, does not appear on the list. I don't think.
Oh, it's at the bottom.
It's at the bottom. Oh yeah, there it is. That's right. We're on the left over here. So yeah, unexploded ordnance is just once. Take and hold is 1, 2, 3. 3 times looks like. Purge the foe is twice. Most of these are twice. Once or twice. So yeah. Last one is Linchpin. At the end of the command phase, the second battle round onward, if a player whose turn it is does not control the objective marker in their deployment zone, they score 3 VP for each objective marker you control. If the player whose turn it is controls the objective marker in their deployment zone, they score 3 VP for controlling that objective marker and 5 VP for each other. So this is one where it shows the importance of, and this one appears 3 times, controlling your home objective. This is why infiltrators are so important, because they prevent stupid deep strikers from coming in anywhere near to take your objective from you. So, yeah, I like this one too. It places the importance on, because there's several that like don't care about your home objective at all. So I like this one because it makes it a huge focus. That's a big swing of points. So yeah.
I like this one actually because it rewards our style of play. in general, um, or at least mine.
Yep.
So I do lean into my at least one infiltrator squad. Currently, it's only one, but I've kind of transitioned into taking one infiltrator and one intercessor squad. So I'll
Mhm.
take one intercessor squad, capture home objective, and I'll use my infiltrators to outside of the objective, just screen out some more of the back
Yeah.
of my deployment zone, so I don't have to be on the objective anymore.
Yep.
This helps me score and defend my back, and just rewards me for doing something I'm already doing.
Well, and
So
sometimes too, with the way the terrain is set up, your home objective might require you to be within a terrain feature, right? If you're within a terrain feature, you can potentially be shot. So if you sticky it and then run off, and the infills can sit outside and just kind of screen out, they don't have to be necessarily within the terrain feature. They can just block deep strike, and be safe from being shot through
yep.
ruins windows or something like that. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, I really really like things that reward us for list building things as well. Um, and I think this is going to be one of those that will help us do that. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, so now it's time for this fat deck of secondaries. The first one is Secure No Man's Land. This is I do like the new format too, by the way, where they kind of have like it's very easy to, you do this or you do this, right? It's very easy to read. Um, so um, so yeah, this one, end of your turn, you control an objective in No Man's Land, two, or if you control two or more, you get five. So I think that's an existing one. Um,
yep.
Containment. This one is an action. Um, Also, for those of you playing the home game, remember actions are now an official thing. Sadly, are like, oh, take a couple bolt rifles to be able to advance and shoot, so that way you can do actions. It's no longer a thing. Can't do that anymore. Sadly. Anyway, um, containment. This is an action. One or more units wholly within 9 or more of the battlefield edges and not within your deployment zone. Select a different one of those battlefield edges for each of those units. It completes immediately. Right now. When you want it now, you gotta do containment. Sorry. You get 3 VP up to 6 for each battlefield edge contained by your army this turn. So you only need 2 to max it. Scouts are amazing for this, as are Inceptors. Because those scouts, you just pluck them off the board turn 1, and then hide them somewhere else and do this secondary. Really like that secondary.
Yeah, I think this stuff has some play for picky uppy units.
Yeah.
The down is if you're playing tactical, you don't necessarily know that you're going to get this card. So it's either you're going to have to hold on to it so you can score it,
Yeah.
which
True.
can be potentially not a good thing.
Yeah.
But if you luck into it and you're already doing the picky uppy, which most of the time you are,
Yeah.
um, you'll get those points fairly easily. So that's just
Yep.
something. That's kind of a nice little play.
Agree. Marked for death. They previewed this one. Your opponent selects 3 units, and then at the end of either player's turn, you killed one or more of those units. I like that. This can be tough because your opponent selects them, but you only have to kill one, and you get 5 points. We
Yep.
talked about this in our preview video. I like that you only have to kill one, and it's going to be, they might pick some tough units, but at least you have 3 choices to do from. So, worst case scenario is you draw this, and they pick 3 units. You're like, I'm never not going to do that. Let me just use new orders and get a new one. So, yeah.
There's that, but it does have the interesting take that it is killed or removed from the board for any reason.
Yeah.
So, depending on your opponent's list, where they may want to do some picky uppy actions, and obviously they're probably going to try and avoid to use it on those units. Um, but they could be forced into a situation where they have to, and then, well, now they're stuck on the board where they would want to move it around or whatever is their game plan. So it's just something that they have to think about that could potentially work against them. So, and as you mentioned, it's only one of the 3 units, so
Yep.
focus everything on
Tim
that one
says,
unit.
seems like scouts are still a must take for our lists. You got that right. Defend Stronghold. This is a one from last mission pack as well. You can't do it in the first battle round. You have to draw a new one. If you control one or more objective markers in your deployment zone, you get 3 VP. But it's at the end of your opponent's turn now instead of, well, I think it's always been at the end of your opponent's turn. So it's mostly unchanged. It's an easy 3 VP. So I I like this one because it's easy, but also I don't like it because it's uninteractive with your opponent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's only 3 victory points too, or a lot of them are higher
Yep.
points values.
Storm hostile objectives. This one is the first one that I've come to that can be fixed. It allows in the first battle round you can draw a new one, so I like that. That if you draw this one, you can, if you want to, get a new one for free. So if you're like, I'm not going to be able to take an objective marker, because there's just the same conditions as before. So you control one or more that were controlled by your opponent. So maybe you're going first. They're only on their home objective. You're like, I'm not going to be able to take that. So this is wasting, so shuffle it back. Or your opponent did not control any at the start of the turn, and you control one or more that you did not control. Both are 4 VP. So I like the change that you can discard it first turn. Very good.
Yeah, that's kind of a nice take. And I think that's been kind of the trend on a lot of these different things is that you'll see. If you can't score at the first turn, then you're able to switch it out.
Yep. Engage on all fronts has some new text as well. If there are fewer than 3 units from your army on the battlefield, you can discard this card and draw a new secondary. Nice change there. Otherwise, I think it's the same. Basically, table quarters, you get 2 or 4 points, depending on how many quarters, and you got to be, more than 6 away from the center of the battlefield. Oh, so I think they changed that. This can also be fixed. I think you used to have to be 6 inches away from the, not just the center, but also the table quarter line. Now it's just the center. So that's a nice change. So if you just make it over, you're good.
Because you don't have to be within, I think it's 3 inches into the quarter.
Yeah, maybe. But it doesn't say that on this one anymore.
Yep, so it's taking that out, it's a little bit
get
easier.
Right over the line. That makes that easier to score too, especially for slower armies. Recover assets. So this one has the fixed logo on it. However, the FAQ says no. Can't make this a fixed one. I think a lot of people were like, this is going to be fixed. We're going to run fixed and run this and score 20 points every time. No, you're not, because now it's tactical only. It is an an action. You can also discard this if there are fewer than 2 units from your army on the battlefield. But it's your shooting phase, 2 or more units from your army. Each of those that is wholly within a different one of the following areas: your deployment zone, no man's land, your opponent's deployment zone. The end of your opponent's next turn or the end of the battle, whichever comes first. If either 2 or 3 of those units are on the battlefield, if completed, they get. If 2 of them do it, it's 3 VP. If 3 of them do it, it's 6 VP. So can be pretty powerful. You do have to survive your opponent's turn. So,
Yes.
so yeah.
This
So
rewards durable units. So this would be one of those ones where if you're taking that Grimaldus led units or 20-man Crusader squads and multiples, this is where you're like, okay, I'm going to take fixed and I'm going to do recover assets, because you can actually survive potentially the rebuttal from your opponent while you're doing this, and you can do it multiple turns. So this one might be a good fixed for that style of list, or if you're using Terminators. Obviously, if they're doing actions, though, you're not going to be able to utilize them for other things, so it's just something you have to think about. But scoring points is sometimes better than killing stuff. So
never forget the primary mission. Score points. You win by scoring points, not by killing crap. So if those Terminators got to stand around twiddling their thumbs because they're recovering their assets, then then that's what you got to do. So yeah. Just remember, take a Sharpie, cross that little guy out. It's not a fixed mission. Can't do it. Behind enemy lines. I think this one is unchanged. Other than when drawn, if it's the first battle round, you can draw a new one. Also good, because nothing worse than drawing this card turn one and going, how the hell am I going to do that? One unit is 3 VP, 2 unit is 4. I forget what it was before, but that feels right. Was it 5? I think it was 5 before. Yep. So less incentive to do 2. So I still like it. Still very easy for us to achieve scouts, interceptors, kind of thing. So.
Yep, it's pretty
David
similar
says,
to what it is before.
Don't touch your models unless you are scoring points or denying points. Sage advice from the master. Area denial. This one scores at the end of your turn. One or more units from your army, excluding aircraft and battle shocked, are within 3 inches of the center of the battlefield, and no enemy units are within 3 inches of the center. Or one or more of your units, that's 2 VP, are within 3 inches, and there are no enemy units within 6 of the center of the battlefield. That one is 5. I think that's largely unchanged. So it rewards controlling that center and not letting them get close.
Yep, this one's
pretty standard.
Like you said, it's pretty standard.
Yep. Assassination. So, Assassination has some update as well. It is a fixed mission. You score 4 VP for each time a character model is destroyed. Or in any battle round, this is when using tactical missions. One or more character, it says units on the card, but they change it to models in the thing. So you don't have to destroy the entire bodyguard unit plus the character to get this. You can now destroy the just the model with like precision or something. But yeah, so tactical, you kill a character, get 5 points, or if all characters have been killed during the battle or destroyed, not by you necessarily, but just destroyed, 5 VP for that as well. So like the change on that.
Yep. I do also like this. Rewards having the precision in your list. So there
like the Emperor's Champion.
Yeah.
So yeah. Next up, Cleanse, another returning one. As far as I can tell, this is the same exact as it was. 2 for 1 or 4 for 2.
I like these styles. It's pretty simple. Get the objective.
Yep.
Something you're wanting to do.
Can also be
anyway.
Fixed.
Yep.
So, Establish Locus is the next one. This is an action. Your shooting phase, only 1 unit from your army at the end of your turn if it's within your opponent's deployment zone or within 6 of the center of the battlefield. You establish a locus. You know, that sounds suspiciously like, uh,
Deploy teleport homers.
well, that, but also that sounds demony. Don't they have something with
Oh,
locusts? Something? I don't
yeah.
know. I'm from New
The
Jersey originally,
scarabs.
so locusts with a T is also scary. So just on that principle alone, I don't like this one. But it's only two if you do it in the center of the battlefield. If you do it in your opponent's deployment zone, it's four. Once again, another objective that is amazing for scouts and inceptors. So if you don't have any scouts, kids, go out and buy some. That's the moral of today's story. Get those scouts.
Yeah. So this one's basically deploy teleport homers. So
Yep.
if you're familiar with that, this is basically it.
Yep.
It rewards being aggressive, which we have units
I
that
think it was
do that.
deployed teleport homers and they just changed the name. So, Pope J Rod says, does the new wording of assassination make Grimaldus' Cenobites a liability again? No, they do not have the character keyword. Only Grimaldus has the character keyword. So, which is another reason why you can use, I've talked about this on a Templars tips video, you can use what you call it, the Cenobites as ablative wounds for the squad that he's in, so they can tank stuff on their invul and feel no pain. So, the next one is sabotage. Your shooting phase, one unit from your army that is within a terrain feature and not within your deployment zone. At the end of your opponent's turn or at the end of the battle, whichever comes first, if your unit is on the battlefield, your unit commits sabotage. I like how it's worded. Then at the end of your opponent's turn, your unit committed sabotage this turn and is not within your opponent's deployment zone, you get 3. Or they committed sabotage, excuse me, and is within your opponent's deployment zone is 6. That's kind of weird. Oh, it completes at the end of your opponent's turn. Yeah. So, yep, another one that's kind of annoying because it doesn't complete until the end of your opponent's turn. But in the same respect, it allows your opponent to interact with the secondary, which is both good and bad. It's bad because I don't want my opponent interacting with my secondaries, but I want to interact with theirs.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get to your opponent's deployment zone and interact with this.
Yeah.
Because they will most likely have something back there. Even if you do have inceptors, you're not going to be able to get this at least that turn unless you have a ton of stuff that's back there.
Yeah.
So you're probably not going to get that 6 VP. That's going to be a 3. So I think this one's going to be one of those ones that you don't really want in your hand. But that's just me.
Yeah. Overwhelming force. Each time an enemy that is within range of an objective marker is destroyed. 3 for each one, up to 5 VP. I think that one's from the previous one too.
Yep.
Same thing with no prisoners, 2 VP every time you kill a unit, up to 5. Bring it down. Boy, they nerfed the crap out of this one. So this was a fixed objective. I mean, I guess it's good for knights and vehicle-heavy lists. But this is, if you were thinking of running this against knights as a fixed objective, think again because it's completely garbage. You only get 2 VP for each monster or vehicle that's destroyed. And then you get another 2 VP if the unit that was destroyed had, or the total wounds characteristic in the unit was 15 as its 15 plus as its starting strength. So literally almost no tank in the game. A lot of them start at less than 15, especially like the Rhino and Gladiator chassis. You know, virtually all of the guard chassis, and then another 2 VP if it's 20 plus. Note that it's models, total wounds. So Tau, if they took crisis suits, which are vehicles, now you get 2 VP for killing the whole squad, and then if that squad has um, more than 15 wounds in it, then you get another 2 VP. And this one is really bad now.
Yeah, this one is going to take everything you have to score decent amount of points on it.
Yeah.
You basically have to table your opponent
Yeah.
to get your points on this.
Yep.
Unless you're playing knights, and then you can maybe get a sort of reasonable amount of points on it. But even then,
You have to kill 10 war dogs.
You have to kill a bunch of them.
10 war dogs to max this. That's ridiculous. You have to table your opponent because most people are running to small knights. Extend battle lines. This one is you control one or more objective markers within your deployment zone and one or more within no man's land. 5 VP for that. If you only have one unit on the battlefield and you control no man's land, you get 2. So, little change there for that one, which is fine. It's about the same as before. A little uninteractive, but yeah. So,
That's basic.
Yep. Cull the Horde. The starting strength of the destroyed, basically kill an infantry unit. The starting strength of the destroyed unit was 20 or more, or the total wounds characteristic of the models in the destroyed unit was 25 plus. Now, they've modified this one as well because all those Tyrannid Swarm List players are like, haha, well, I'll just run 19 Gaunts instead. No, you won't. And they added a clause on this. It says when that unit's player added that unit to their army, the points value they subtracted from the total permitted for this battle was sufficient for that unit to be composed of 20 or more models. So, sorry, giant horde players. You're not going to run 19 and not be able to get this. That being said, this one also sucks because, yeah, it's 5 VP. And maybe it's fine as a tactical. You're never going to take this as a secondary. You'd have to kill 4 20-man units just to max this.
Yeah. So this one was okay previously. The fix is nice to be able to do this, but now that they have made in the balanced day slate that you can only use the return your unit or infantry unit once, that was a boon for being able to take this. Previously, now you're not going to be able to do it. It's only the one return. Your opponent's probably not going to have too many units that are 20 plus models or 25 plus.
Yeah, very select lists.
So this is not going to be a good take.
Yeah.
Tactical, it might work out, but yeah. You'd never want to take a fixed on this, in my opinion. It's going to take too many resources if you face that particular unit or that type of army.
Yep.
It's going to take way too much resources to make it work.
Agreed. And that's the Pariah Nexus mission pack, guys. So what are your overall thoughts, Bob? Like, how is this going to impact our list building and our way we play the game? I think there's list building a little impact, personally. The impact to the way we play the game is significant.
Yeah, so list building itself, like I mentioned earlier, I think it's going to be kind of important to take a third unit battle line. I think it's just good enough between the primary missions and the secondary missions where you kind of want to have that battle line impact. I don't think 2 can be quite enough for us, and I I personally like to take that intercessor squad, being able to have a sticky objective, whether it be your home objective or maybe one of the no man ones, so you don't have to worry about it. Just move on to the next thing. Uh, for me personally, it's going to be my home objective because then I can pair that with the infiltrators to block out more of my deployment zone and not have to worry about sitting something on that home objective. It's going to be really important unless I'm in one of the primary missions that rewards me for being on that home objective, like Lynchpin. Um, but in general, I think that's going to be where you're going to want to go. Intercessor's value have significantly gone up. Now, we had talked about briefly in the last video that we did, really kind of talking about the PARIAH Nexus, was possibility of heavy intercessors being good. There is a lot of different missions now that reward durability on your home objectives. So heavy intercessors might be a play for you for 100 points, I believe that they are now.
Yep.
They are fairly durable when they're sitting on objectives, so you could score some points. But remember that these are random, so you're generating the missions. You can't guarantee what you're going to get unless you agree ahead of time or you have a mission pack. So
Yeah.
that's just something to think about. You're not always going to luck into uh, that particular thing. I think in general, there's going to be melee is going to be more important because there's more emphasis on killing things while you are also within uh, range of objectives. Because of that, vehicles are going to possibly be a play because Bring It Down is significantly nerfed. So you're also going to have some answers for that. So you may be seeing some more knights, chaos knights, Tau in general. Um, so you have to be aware of that. And I also think that when you're doing your list building in general, I think you have to keep an eye on fixed objectives as something that you do. So in 10th edition, typically I played tactical missions. I think that the fixed missions are uh, fixed in a way that they are an option for us. Honestly, some people have started shifting away. The higher end tournament players have been shifting away from tactical missions and going more into kill or the fixed ones ahead of the games, depending on their opponents. And I think that's an option now. There was too many holes in that, in my opinion, to reliably do that every game. Um, but in some matchups, they
I
were very,
still
very
like
powerful.
tactical
So
for
tactical
me.
are always good, but I
Yeah.
think you can.
And they're better now,
It's
in my opinion. A lot of the action ones reward scouts and interceptors and infiltrators, sticky objectives and battle line and stuff. So, um, yeah, I really like the new mission pack. I think it's um, a great improvement on Leviathan. A lot more interactive stuff, a lot more interesting rules. Um, and yeah, overall, now we didn't talk about this really, but we did it in a previous video. Um, the secret missions are better than gambits. Gambits were terrible.
yeah,
Secret missions are much better. They're actually achievable. Yeah, you're capped at 40 primary, but if you're, and you have to be losing, by the way. You can't use a gambit if you're winning, or not a gambit, a secret mission. Um, so, but the thing I like about it is um, it doesn't replace entirely your primary mission. It just caps your primary mission at 20 points, and you get 20 if you complete the secret mission. So if you get 20 for completing the secret mission, and at the end of the game, you can nab 10 or 15 points on primary, you might be able to get the full 40 points, which could swing the game. So I like them a lot better. Are they going to be like something that you're worrying about every game? No. but I think it's interesting. So
Yeah, there's a number of good changes in PARIAH Nexus that I like. So I talked about those fixed objectives being something that you could potentially swing into. One thing I didn't really talk so much is that in tactical, if you choose to go for it, and I still like tactical, is you're going to have a lot less opportunity of getting a bad draw
yeah,
in your first turns, and I
several
think
ones.
that
It's like,
can't be
hey, if you
overstated.
draw this in the first turn, you like ones that are hard to score in the first turn are like now you can discard it for free. For free. So, and new orders is now unlimited. So, if you really need to, you can do it. I think the tactical is has really pared down the bad RNG, where your opponent can't do something or where you can't do something. Right? You can get rid of some objectives that you don't like, and yeah. So I like that. I like that change a lot. It keeps the cool flexibility of, being able to do different things, but also um, doesn't hurt you as much on the RNG.
Yeah, so I think this pack actually does bode well towards the things that we typically want to do as a list in general in our detachments, with the exception of Iron Storm, which conveniently got nerfed into the ground already.
Yeah.
So Righteous Crusaders, this is a list or the mission pack that rewards what we want to do. Gladius really likes this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Firestorm likes this as well. So we've seen some successful lists with that, and it gets better with what we want to do. Melee is what we really are geared to trying to do. So um, heard see some comments in there is like we might take some minor changes, like I mentioned, taking for me intercessor squad. I mean, honestly, that's less than 100 points, making a slight adjustment to my list.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that
just minor
uh,
things.
kind of transitions well into sort of what the title of the stream is about. How do you think the future of Black Templars looks, Bob, based on this and the changes in the data slate? And where do we go from here? I know there's been a lot of talk recently, about people switching from Righteous Crusaders to Gladius. Personally, I think Gladius right now is the better detachment. Uh, but that being said, I think you can certainly win games and do fine with the Righteous Crusaders. Are you gonna like place at Nova with Righteous Crusaders? Probably not. But if that's not your objective and high level tournament play is not what you care about, then Righteous Crusaders is perfectly fine. It's great. So, that's what do you think?
Okay, so I've touched on it in the past over the last couple months. Um, I was one of the very stubborn Righteous Crusaders players. That's what I went with. That's what I built my lists on.
I'll be right
Um,
back.
and that's really kind of what I built and talked about. I did play some Gladius. Never did get a chance to play Firestorm because I'm missing a few strategic models. But I think if I'm going to go into a tournament play, I am going to be using Gladius. There is reasons for this. We want to be successful in both the shooting and melee uh, phases of the battle, as well as giving some movement shenanigans. So I think there's just a little bit more tools in the toolbox in the Gladius detachment to help us be successful, versus where Righteous Crusaders is more of a be durable, annoying to your opponent, while having that melee opportunity. Um, so that's kind of where I've been transitioning. So I've been watching the placements over the last, oh, well, the last year, but we do have some Black Templars that are being successful, and a lot of them have been Ironstorm recently,
Yeah.
and we're not going to see them be successful recently. So or now, so whether those players are going to transition into Firestorm, that we had a couple of wins in Firestorm recently, but that was before the Nexus came out. Um, I suspect tournament players are going to gravitate toward Gladius. Um, Now, with that being said, Righteous Crusaders, I still think you're going to be a 45 to 50% win rate,
Yeah.
because we still have all the tools that we need to be successful in that. It's just not quite as much as like Righteous Crusaders needs a buff to shooting to really be successful, because we have to be able to play the the standoff game and be able to shoot our opponents and get something for doing that. That Righteous Crusaders just doesn't give us, in my opinion. Um, while I
Yeah.
do like the 6-up
Or
Feel No Pain,
it needs, like, our enhancements need to be able to be triggered based on fervent acclamation. Um, I think that would also give it a pretty good bump. Um, you know, to help compete a little bit more with Gladius. So
yeah. And
yeah,
Tim does make a good point. So there is we've for the first time in a long time, vows are up in the air.
yeah,
Um, it's been traditionally upheld for 80% of 10th edition if you're running Righteous Crusaders. Accept any challenges is the legitimate choice now. I wouldn't go with any of the other two. Accept is probably the other one that I would go with, but it does give us an option, and you can just switch into uphold if you need it for that particular thing.
yeah,
Uh, but
yeah. Fervent acclamation, David, really does need to be in the fight phase. I don't know why it's in the command phase. It it's all of the buffs are melee. Why is it not in the fight phase? That would be a huge change for us, and I don't get why it's not. Um, so something I will note, I do agree with you. I think accept is better than suffer not if you're not going to take up hold. There is one thing I will point out, which where is it? It's a stratagem. Yeah, Crusader's Wrath, the extra AP. Um, it does give, if Suffer Not is active, it does give +1 strength as well. So, something to keep in mind there. However, accept any challenge, also, its one, I think, is no escape. Yeah, so you get no escape on a 3-up instead of a 4-up. So, I think overall the math works out where sustained is generally better than lethal. Plus, lethal is easier to get access to via lieutenants. So, that being said, um, I think that's accept as the next best choice if you're not going to take up hold. Um, and important to note that you choose your vow at the start of the first battle round. So after deployment, after you know who goes first, that's when you choose your vow. So if your opponent deployed poorly, um, or whatever the case may be, you can make your decision right then and there, which is really nice. That's something that David mentioned to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. It is at the start of the battle round. Because it didn't used to be. Vows used to be you choose them at like after you see your opponent's list. Now it's the start of the first battle round, so you get to see deployment, everything, which is significant. That's good and that's important information.
yeah, just a side note, David. When I sent in my notes for fixing Sword Brethren, I didn't see any changes or hear anything for almost 2 years.
A
So
whole edition.
just yeah,
But some of the things that you had suggested Sword Bros need a buff. They need to either get +1 attack or +1 strength or +1 damage or something like on the charge or something like that. And lo and behold, 10th edition
It
rolls around and they've
it
got an
was
option to
literally word for
choose.
word.
Yeah,
It was literally word for word from my email. And
yeah,
early on in the edition, I had screenshots of it, and I'm like, "This is my email. This is what the rules are." And I was like, it was literally word for word. And I was
yeah,
like, they should pay me to design a game. No, I'm just
yeah.
kidding. But
Well,
yes, it worked out.
we should design the game because Black Templars will always be the best then.
Yeah, but then
David,
everyone play.
David also says, keep in mind the meta. MSU is the meta at this point. So, are you simply overkilling? If so, the ROI of these vows hits diminishing returns quickly. Um, so, yeah, I think it depends on who you're facing, right? Are you facing a durable army where more DPS is warranted? Um, or are you facing something like a Crusader squad is going to go into virtually any unit they have and murder it, right? In which case, durability is probably better. Um, so, so yeah,
But on the other hand, I will say, in in addition, on the accept any challenges, it allows, if you're playing MSU, it allows those small units to hit up without investing heavily into a particular unit. So you don't have to put characters on them. Just a basic, Crusader squad, or maybe it's assault intercessors or whatever it may be, jump assault intercessors.
yeah,
Then they hit up, um, because they have that vow,
yep,
which allows them to play that game where they may not kill that entire squad normally, or now they may be able to do that.
yeah. And I mean, even a basic Crusader squad, uh, with no re rolls or nothing, whatever, a full 10-man Crusader squad, just the chain swords are getting almost 6 extra hits with sustained hits. Then you factor in the fact of like, did that target get oathed, right? Those kinds of things. Um, that's a significant bump. Then you can put in like Crusader's Wrath and give them an extra AP, and suddenly they're really dangerous on their own. So
So if you're taking a broad overview of the game and you're looking at Black Templars, because most of us that are watching the stream are Black Templars players, right? Uh, I think we're in a solid place. In fact, I think comparatively speaking, with our access to all of the different detachments that we have access to, um, I feel like if we spec into either uh, Gladius or Firestorm, and I would even say Firestorm might even be more powerful once it gets unlocked because there's way more interaction with vehicles and transports
mm-hmm.
in that detachment, which are going to probably see a lot more play. Um, Once that gets unlocked, I think we're going to see even higher win rates than we're currently seeing, honestly. Um,
Well,
it
and
makes me really
with
want to
the
play.
new capacity of impulsors, makes Firestorm that much more appealing.
Yeah.
So, the only catch with that is Firestorm likes transports, yes, but it likes transports with guns inside. Uh, a sword bro unit jumping out to, shoot something because they shot it is not as appealing as Hellblasters or something like that in Furnace. You know what I mean? So, um, they also uh, Firestorm also took a hit with the data slate with the nerf to the captain's ability. It's only being -1 CP, so their immolation protocols still cost you a CP instead of being free and getting to do it twice. So that's a pretty significant nerf for them. Um, but I still think Firestorm is a very good detachment, and I think it's very on theme for Black Templars too. So um, I, Iron Storm is kind of dead now. which I'm kind of glad for. I never really liked the Black Templar Iron Storm. Like, it didn't feel very thematic for
Yeah,
me.
no.
Uh,
Gunline Black Templar.
well, yeah. But, that's why I like the others better. But yeah, I think we're going to be in a good spot. The Redeemer going up 25 points was painful. Um, Fortunately, I looked at the one list I had, which I think it's like my armored spearhead list that has a bunch of 2+ armor in it. Um, and because it was already uh, light on points, all I had to do was drop Perdition's Edge from the Lieutenant, which I didn't really want to do, but that was the only thing I had to drop to get to 2,000 points. So, yeah, that's the one that has all 2+ armor. So, all the vehicles have a 2+. So, two ballistic dreadnoughts, a Redeemer, and a Vindicator. Well, except for the Impulsor, it doesn't have a 2+. But um, yeah, so that's that's at least a blessing. I was short on points, so I didn't have to drop something from that list.
ML. So you had a question about how we do research on lists, specifically Black Templars lists. So we have one of our moderators in our Discord, Baz. Shout out to you. Does a very time intensive uh, job for us every week. So we thank him a lot for the time and energy that he does every single week.
Yep.
He goes through all of the tournaments that are GT size or bigger, so 28 or bigger. Sometimes he does smaller ones depending on the week, but they're almost always 20 or higher. And he will go through best coast pairings and look at all those tournaments for each weekend internationally and find all of the
The
Black Templars
placings.
lists
Yeah.
and the placings and their detachments, and he will post up paste bin lists in our Discord, and he basically tells who wins,
What place they
what the
came
places
in, win loss record, everything. So,
yep, the person who it is. So that's how we keep track of it because of Baz.
yeah.
Honestly, without him, it would make the process a lot harder. So that's a resource that we have on our Discord that has been actually fairly amazing. You do have to opt into it. It's under a meta watch, so you would have to make sure
Choose
that
that
you
role, and
get
then
the
you'll get
role.
pinged when it goes up.
You'll get
But it's
pinged.
always
Yep.
under that channel. That channel's free to view. You don't have to have the role, but the role helps because then you get the ping for it. Another resource that's really good is StatCheck,
Yep.
and it's statcheck.com / the meta. It has like very nice like graphs and everything like that. Really kind of breaks down everything for you as far as the meta, all the way down to how many players, how many games, how many what detachments, all that kind of stuff. For example, I just pulled it up here. Right now, as of uh, the since the last update, which was on 6/11, Black Templars are at a 49% win rate, and if I expand this here, it'll tell me. Um, and so the thing is too, you got to also look at how many games are played. This is something that a lot of people I see, like, if you just look at the Black Templar breakdown, you're gonna be like, oh my god, Firestorm is at a 70% win rate. Right. Yeah. But it's only 3 players in 20 games. You can just throw that out because it's useless data. Like, that's not enough of a data point to have any kind of significant, meaningful, data. Compared to Gladius Task Force, a little better, 21 players, 110 games, right? It's at 55%. Iron Storm is at 49. It's got 27 players, 140 games played. And then Righteous Crusaders, 59 players, 310 games. So, um, significantly, obviously, the more games you have, the better the average is going to be as far as being more accurate to what it actually can do. So Righteous Crusaders still in that Goldilocks zone, 45%, a little lower than I'd like to see. I'd like to see closer to 50%. But you know, the two that we're really focused on, I think going into Pariah Nexus is going to be Gladius, which is slightly above, and Righteous Crusaders, which is slightly below. So
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've gotten quite a few reps over the last 2 months or so of my Gladius list, which is basically exactly the same as what I was taking in Righteous Crusader.
mm-hmm.
So I've had the reps in it. I just have different tools to use. But I am very interested to see how this Pariah Nexus goes into Firestorm. So I'll have to build a list with that, get some reps in.
Yep.
I've upgraded my technology, so I might be getting some TTS going
Yes.
here real quick. So
We
at
definitely
least
need to do that.
we'll be able to, maybe if those are interested, we'll spend the time and record those games.
Or stream them.
Or just stream them if that's something that people care about. I know people are trying to get away from the TTS in general because they want to get them in person. But if there's interest in that, we can certainly record or stream it.
Kirk asks, when do we when we will get our Codex supplement, this fall or next year? It won't be this year. It'll probably be sometime at the earliest, sometime next year, at the very earliest.
I hate
However,
questions like this. I hate questions like this.
well, yeah, we have some information, but we're not allowed to share it. So,
No, we're not.
the thing about it is right now, based on the way Codex supplements for Imperial armies have gone, I don't want one. Just leave me with the index, because except for Sisters, every Imperial book has been awful, terrible nerfs. And yeah, so. Right now, until we get some more information or we see some more Imperial books like Sisters, I'm really nervous about a Black Templars supplement, because I really like our units. I think our detachment rules just need a little tweaking, and then we'll be good. But I'm really nervous that they'll nerf Helbrecht and the Emperor's Champion and Sword Bros and Crusaders and like all our stuff. So, based on what they did to Dark Angels, man, they did them so dirty. Although they updated the Inner Circle companions to finally have extra AP. I don't know why they were AP1. That was just ridiculous. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on it right now.
Yeah, so it'll be kind of interesting. There was a little. Don't worry about that, Kirk. I hate the question because sometimes we are put in a difficult position and it's hard to keep silent on
We
things.
can't talk about some stuff. We do have some people that we know.
Yes.
But yeah.
Downtown Stabby, I don't want to forget you. You did talk about or asked, are you excited about the Space Marine 2? Looks like there is Black Templars that is a customizable option, which is not in Space Marine 1 in the standard box set.
It is. There's a chapter emblem for BT. So I had Space Marine 1. Yes, I'm very excited. I'm pre-ordering it. I'm probably actually going to take a couple days off because if you pre-order it, you get 4 days early access. So yeah, I'm probably going to pre-order it, and then see. I forget. I think it comes out on like September 9th or something like that. Let's see, what day of the week is that? September 9th is a Monday. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 5th. So I might take off like that Thursday or Friday before. And I will be, my plan right now is to live stream it. I want to uh, maybe I'll do start doing like a regular live stream if you guys are interested in something like that of me playing. Probably start out play the campaign, and then once we get into like the PVE, the co-op stuff, get a regular group of people together, live stream some of that. I might do try to set up like a regular live stream, maybe Sunday nights or something like that. Space Marine Sundays. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, but my plan is to definitely like produce content for us with Space Marine 2 because I'm really pumped for it. I've been waiting forever for this game, so
Yeah, we've had some requests in the past to, kind of shift away from the 40K and to play some games. You know, I'm okay with that. I don't necessarily have the time because I have small children that don't really allow that to happen uh, in my current situation. But if you like that, and uh, after Alex does it, just let us know and we can probably
yep.
arrange something more on that. So yeah, certainly. Let's see here. Anything else? Oh, J Rod, Pope J Rod mentions a hot take: the rules team getting better at balance. I am a little bit of a difference than Alex. I prefer the toned down codexes a little bit more.
Don't get me wrong. I prefer Codex Sleep over Codex Creep too. But the trend I have noticed is that the Xenos and Chaos books are generally like solid to good, and the Imperial books are nerfs. That's what I've noticed, with the exception of Sisters. Um, so that's why, like, I'm not asking for massive buffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nor do I want them. Like, Codex Creep is terrible. I hate it. I would rather stuff be more toned down. But at the same time, like we've seen, like Necron's got really good boosts. Orcs are really good. Chaos was really good, although they just got nerfed. Um, so these books that came out that are not Imperial are good. They're not like, oh my god, OP, crazy meta, codex creep. But the Imperial books, by contrast, are all nerfs. Like, they nerfed the Lion for no reason. No one was running him anyway, and then they just nerfed him for no reason. Stuff like that. So
I
yeah.
will say Custodes went from a trash codex to actually pretty good with PARIAH NEXUS.
Well, yeah, they
So
had to do something because it was a garbage codex. Like, it was so bad. AdMech too. They had to completely rewrite AdMech essentially with the data slate. Like, if you see all the changes, it's just like the biggest block of changes ever because the book is so terrible. So that's what I mean. Like, some of the Dark Angels had some nerfs, but it wasn't awful. But Custodes and AdMech were just terrible, terrible,
I
terrible
don't know what
codexes.
the heck was going on.
I don't know.
There's no saving that thing. You have to basically trash it and rewrite it from
Yeah.
scratch.
Kirk says, I hope the new codex they give marshals and castellans to gain scout to run up with PCS. That's a really cool idea, and I like that. Alternatively, I would like to see, instead of them having the same ability as um, the regular lieutenant and captain, give them a different ability that focuses on Black Templars. I would like that too. Give us a reason to run them, because right now we don't have one. They used to be 5 points cheaper, so it was like, oh hey, you can save 5 points. But now they're not. Now they're the same cost. And the Castellan is not as good. He has less attacks than the lieutenant with the power sword, the power weapon. So I don't understand that one either. But yeah, they need something. You give us these bespoke characters. Make them unique. Make them interesting. That's something that I do hope to see.
Especially since the Castellan, it's a little bit of a controversial model, but I love that model.
It's amazing.
I
How is
love
it
that model.
controversial? Who doesn't like that? The
There's a
chonk,
lot of people I see that.
Sir
So you're like,
Chonks a lot.
oh,
He's
because
amazing. Well, those people are like, I don't know what's wrong with them. They need to get some help
because
because it's the
the thing
Blanche.
is, it is. I love that thematic, but they're like, oh well, they were firstborn, and it has the firstborn armor, and
Not
give
really.
me a break. What?
Also, he's so damn huge. He's like head literally like a head taller than any other Primaris. The guy is he's almost in Terminator armor. Like that's how big he is. He's a big ass model. He's not firstborn. He's I love the meme. Have you seen the meme about him where it was back when people were trying to decide like is he firstborn or is he not or whatever. And he goes let me see if I can find it real quick. It's so funny, like where the guy's like asking him, well, what kind of Marine are you? And he's like a loyalist.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah. So we got about 9 minutes left. So if you guys have any questions outstanding, because we kind of hit a wide gambit on stuff. So if you have any questions, feel free to toss them our way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just going to keep on
Yeah, here it is.
talking about stuff.
He asks, "Are you a firstborn or a primarist?" He goes, "I am a Castellan." What type of Marine are you? Loyalists. But what is in your gene seed? The wrath of the Emperor. I love it. It's perfect. Kirk says new Stern Guard have firstborn armor and no one was complaining with them. Exactly. That's what I hope they do to Vanguard vets and Devastator squads, to be honest, and tactical squads, is give us Primaris versions of them and just get rid of the old models. Although some people think that dev squads are just going to go away because they kind of have dispersed, like in Primaris, there's like the Eradicators, and there's the Hellblasters, and then there's the whatever the stupid Nerf gun guys are. But I don't know. Devastators are very iconic. So are tactical squads. I can see them getting the Stern Guard treatment. I'm almost certain that eventually Vanguard will get the Stern Guard treatment. They have to. They have to. Because they suck right
pretty
now.
much everything has gotten it.
Yeah.
Don't see any other questions.
ML says, I just want to see RC Strat's second abilities to take effect if the army is not in a particular vow. Yeah, that would be a nice buff too. Or, like I said, if it's one of those where like fervent triggers it, right? If your unit is in that vow, because that's how Gladius works. That's one of the reasons why Gladius is so good, is because it triggers those abilities even if your army is not in that doctrine. I think really honestly, if you tweak that to fervent moves to the fight phase, the enhancements and strats trigger off of fervent. I think that puts that's a huge game changer. That puts Righteous Crusaders as good as Gladius. That's what I would say.
It would certainly be a big buff. I
Yeah.
still think that you really need something for the shooting phase, but I mean something. Axe Massacre says it pretty much fleshed out infantry for running Black Tide style lists with Sword Bros, Infiltrators, PCS, etc. What type of vehicles do you guys suggest now for 10th? So we've talked a little bit about that this stream, but in the past, the Vindicator is good, 175 points right now. It's a great distraction Carnifex. It does do D6 damage, but you have quite a few shots that you can put on to monsters or vehicles. Put that in strategic reserve, get it on the second turn, then you get good angles on it with the limited range on it. I also like the Ballistus Dreadnought in a lot of my list instead of the Lancers nowadays, simply due to the cost. 140 points is economical for what you get. David is all about his Reaper. The Reaper is really good. Yeah, I like all of the Gladiator variants. I am not very enthusiastic about the fact that they changed the fact that you have to take the Black Templars version now.
Yeah.
Even though I still did, I don't like options being taken away from me.
Yeah.
Um, so there's that.
Also, also to note, uh, the um, the Black Templar's Reaper still has the old ability name, which is the best ability name in all of 40k, and that is Rotating Death. What a great name. I don't know why they changed it to whatever the lame one is that it is now for Codex Space Marines, but Rotating Death, that's what I'm talking about. I do like the Reaper. I like the Vindicator a lot as well. I like the Vindicator. I feel like it's very comparable to the Lancer. It's a more durable tank, and yeah, the Lancer is more consistent damage. The Vindicator does have a higher ceiling, and the Vindicator is better at infantry. So you can target heavy infantry with it and murder, versus two shots into heavy infantry from a Lancer is useless. So, so I like the Vindicator a lot as well. We have a lot of good options. Ballistus, like you said, the Reaper is great. Um, it it pumps out a ton of shots, and it'll be good at clearing those chaff horde armies.
Yeah, we also do obviously have the Land Raider variants, the big one.
The Redeemer is
Um,
scary.
the Redeemer got nerfed a bit, so it's going to be less taken. Um, but Godhammer, I think, is going to be something that might be considered in some of our lists. It is still economical. I think it's 160, or I'm sorry, 260 or 265 around there, which is fairly economical.
Four last cannon
And you
shots.
still
Yeah.
get the las cannon shots um, if you're not doing transports. So it sounds like you are just going with the black style, which is going to be foot based. But
Yep.
there's some strategic choices there. If you're going to be going with vehicles, those are the ones I would suggest: Vindicator or uh, one of the dreadnoughts, whether it be the ballistus, which is going to be a solid take no matter what type of list, or brutalis even potentially. You have some play there.
Well, and despite the nerfs, I got another another Land Raider. Actually didn't own a Redeemer, if you can believe that. I own two Crusaders, but not a Redeemer. So I was like, well, time to get some flame cannons. So I wish the Crusader were better. I know it got a points drop. It's still not enough. The bolters just suck.
Yeah, bolters need something.
They need AP or something. Lethal hits, maybe. I don't know. They need something, because it's it's too bad because it's our iconic vehicle. Like it's our we invented the damn thing, and I'd love to be able to use it. But sadly, it's not as good as those auto hitting flamestorm cannons, which are amazing in Overwatch. So
All right, so Kirk Lemon asks, I answered it in the chat, but for those watching the replay, they won't see it for a while. But he asked, with PARIAH NEXUS, I'm seeing games being scored lower than before. Are you expecting lower scoring games? Now, I will say, when we were in the beginning of 10th edition, scores were very low initially. And as the edition went on and we had experience with the decks and how to build the lists and how to react to the lists, the scores went up. So I do think that it will normalize over time.
yeah,
Right now, initially, we are seeing those 75 to 85 scores, simply because we're adjusting to the new missions and how to react to them. I think that will change going forward because you net the between tactical and fixed. The real big changes are in the bring it down which people were taking a ton of. So I think that is a big nerf. They just have to adjust to picking something else, honestly. But there wasn't too terribly much difference in scoring ability. In fact, we even got one of the primary missions that allows you to score some extra points. So I think it'll even out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is 11 o'clock, guys. Thank you so much for joining us and watching the stream today. I will try to have that next video about the biggest changes for Black Templars going into Pariah Nexus out tomorrow for you. So look at that. Um, and don't forget to, do all the YouTube button things like comment, subscribe, bell, all that stuff. Check out our Patreon. We got a lot of great benefits for our patrons. We couldn't do this without you guys. Greatly appreciate it. Also, don't forget to check out our partner, Baron of Dice. He sells our Implausible Nature dice. They are awesome. Go check them out as well at baronofdice.com. And the link is in the description as well. So,
Amazing dice.
amazing dice.
Amazing.
Love them. So, yeah, awesome, guys.